name is Audra Browning, and I'm the co-chair of the TAG Entertainment Society. And it's really my privilege to be here to introduce our recipient for the award this year, Shay Bentley-Griffin. I'm honored to be able to call her a friend. She and I have met a few years ago, and she has taught me so much about the struggles in the entertainment industry and what they have done and what they have accomplished and their achievements in the state of Georgia. Shay is a 3-time Emmy nominee, and I had to write down a lot of what she's accomplished because it was too much to remember. But when people were leaving the state of Georgia and packing their bags and going to New York and LA to start their careers and build their careers, Shay packed an overnight case and went to LA and made LA come to Georgia. And I think that what she's accomplished because of her love of the land, her love of the state, is really, I don't know if we'd be where we are without her. So just to name some of the studios she's worked with: Walt Disney, Tyler Perry, Universal, Paramount, Lionsgate, 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, DreamWorks, and TNT. Some of the pictures that she's done the casting for: Anchorman 2, The Internship, The Joneses, Trouble with the Curve, X-Men First Class, Hall Pass, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, The Legend of Bagger Vance, Revenge of the Nerds. I could never figure that out. Revenge of the Nerds, really? Sweet Home Alabama, Remember the Titans, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, My Cousin Vinny, Scream 2, That Damn Cat, and RoboCop 3. Those are just the movies. You go on to some of the other series she's done, and In the Heat of the Night, Vampire Diaries, Foxworthy's Big Night Out, House of Pain. Miniseries, she's done over 10 of them. Elvis, Andersonville, made-for-TV movies, 67 made-for-TV movies she's cast. Pilots, she's done over 19 pilots. So if you don't sit and watch the credits at the end of a movie with a Georgia Peach, go back and watch some of those, because Shay Bentley-Griffin is a household name. And so she's done so much for the state that Governor Deal actually wrote a letter to honor her for the work that she's done. And he couldn't be here, but his daughter, Mary Emily Bradovich, is here to read the letter to you.
Hello. I am Mary Emily Obradovich, and as she said, my father could not be here today, but I was very honored that I was asked to be here to read this letter. But before I do that, I just want to tell a little bit about the impact that Shay's had on my life. My father was actually the one who introduced us. He told Shay, "I have 2 daughters that are actors that maybe you might want to get to know them." Well, at the time, I actually had sort of hung up my acting shoes, or so I thought. I was on a maternal sabbatical from acting, but Shay called and invited me to come to one of her classes, and I thought, well, this really doesn't apply to me right now, but I'm kind of a nerd and I really like class, so I'm gonna go and see what I can learn. And so I did go to that class, and the best thing that came out of that class, besides learning how to act in front of a camera, is that I got to know Shay, and we became friends. And Shay taught me not only about acting, but she taught me about this industry, which I actually, from a theater background, didn't know that much about. And she taught me about the big picture, what was really happening in Georgia, what could happen in Georgia if we continued the history, the hard-fought history, and the part that she played in that, and the things that really needed to happen to make this industry stay. And part of that was a more encompassing view of that. It involved more than film and TV. It involved music, it involved digital and gaming, the big picture. And Shay sort of has this way that many of you probably know of influencing you and getting you on board with what she believes. And she's sort of like that old commercial, she tells two friends, and she tells two friends, and she tells two friends. Well, that's what happened. Like I said, my sister is also an actor, and so is her husband, so they were on board. But then she met my husband, who's a patent attorney, had nothing to do with entertainment industry. But now he is no longer a patent attorney, he has his own production company. So our life has totally changed. And I just, they have been saying that this is the Hollywood of the South, and it's people like Shay with this vision that have made that happen. But I believe that it's more than just the Hollywood of the South. We're Georgia. We do it all. And I just really appreciate everything that Shay has done, and she's truly an icon. So I would like to read this letter. To the attendees of the TAG Digital Media and Entertainment Industry Summit, greetings. I am pleased to extend my warmest regards to the Technology Association of Georgia as you host the Digital Media and Entertainment Industry Summit. On behalf of the state of Georgia, it is a pleasure to be a part of this special event. Please allow me to welcome your distinguished guests and attendees today. Today's Entertainment Icon Award recipient, Ms. Shay Bentley-Griffin, and your keynote speaker, Mr. Richard Warner. Georgia is currently third in the nation for film production, and I am committed to keeping this impressive ranking. As such, I am grateful to the Technology Association of Georgia for hosting this important conference dedicated to educating businesses about the entertainment industry in our state and region. In 2014, feature films and television productions generated an economic impact of over $5.1 billion, and I look forward to the continued contributions of this industry. I would also like to take this time to congratulate Ms. Shay Bentley-Griffin on receiving this year's Entertainment Icon Award. Having cast over 225 television and feature film projects, Ms. Bentley-Griffin is a leader in Georgia's film industry. In addition to her impressive credits, Ms. Bentley-Griffin has played a critical role in driving the Georgia film industry forward through various positions, including being a member of the executive board of the Georgia Production Partnership and serving as vice chair to the governor's Film and Entertainment Advisory Board. Her record of professionalism and dedication are a testament to her deservedness of this honor, and I am proud to have such an exceptional person work on behalf of the film industry in our state. Once again, I commend the Technology Association of Georgia for organizing this event and send my best wishes for a successful and enjoyable summit. I am confident we will continue to see positive impacts of this industry on the great state of Georgia. Sincerely, Nathan Deal.
Thank you, Mary Emily. We really appreciate you coming here to present the letter and to read it for us in person. And now I'd like to ask Frank to come up and to present the Icon of the Industry Award to Shay before we go to the fireside chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Audra. Well, once again, the opportunity, I mentioned earlier that I'd blessed twice today because there were two people in my professional career that had represented far beyond just professionalism, but really the kind of character and personality that got expressed and portrayed in the two introductions that were just made a couple of seconds ago. Obviously, Richard Warner, it's an understatement that his time will come when a recognition like the icon will be his, because he's done so much over the course of his career to advance what we believe to be the mission of this society. One of the things that the society is about is the realization that we have a sense of identity in place, that in many cases over the course of, especially of the last few years, there's been such exciting growth and so many new and exciting opportunities that have arisen that we have a tendency to kind of forget in context who we are and where we came from. And so a couple of years ago, when the society began to have its summit, which is now, this is our third, we inaugurated the idea of let's recognize the evolution of the pioneers, the people who paved the way. You know, it's rhetorical. You hear that a lot, people who paved the way. But when you think about something like you saw today with Richard Warner, it's hard to conceive that there was a time when there wasn't television, or there wasn't radio, or there wasn't the kind of media that we have today. And of course, the promise of the future magnifies that opportunity in ways that are just indescribable. But the reality of it is, and it's kind of reminiscent of if you've read any of the signs that are around you about Lonnie and his museum, about innovation, past, forward, P-A-S-T, past, forward. It's this string, a narrative, a connection from many people across a long period of time that have brought us to where we are today, but also will take us into the future as well, because it's that kind of integrity and capability and talent and commitment that have made us who we are today. We are, I think, now I could be wrong, but either fourth or fifth in the country as far as film production. And entertainment is trending as the fastest growing industry in the state. And it was only just a few years ago when that wasn't necessarily the case, and when many people like Shay and others like her were advocating the kind of things that are happening and the possibilities of the things that are happening today, there were a lot of naysayers. The first winner of the Icon Award was a fellow by the name of Ed Spivey. You may or may not recognize the name. I won't bore you with a lengthy explanation, but Ed was the original film commissioner and goes back to Deliverance and the whole evolution of not only Jimmy Carter getting involved in the film industry, bringing it into the state of Georgia to a degree, but 7 governors thereafter, a legacy that literally is earmarked by the peach, which he created that peach logo as part of his, and that's a small token of the legacy that he left behind. When we came and looked at the possibilities, there wasn't even a single debate as to who would be first. Although I must admit, and this is absolutely the God's truth, Shay was the second choice or the competitor in whether to do Ed first or Shay first. But it was just a case where everybody felt that it was Ed was there first over the period of time from just a sheer numbers standpoint. The second winner was a fellow by the name of Joel Katz. Joel Katz, some of you may or may not be aware of, but Joel Katz is another one of those superheroes that we don't really recognize or understand that is of Georgia. Not just in Georgia, but of Georgia. He's probably one of the most, not probably, he is one of the most powerful, most influential, most successful entertainment lawyers in the industry. Not only today, but has been for many, many decades. The range of talent that he has represented, it's almost, I don't think anyone here, we could go around a table and name somebody, name a group you like or a particular entertainer that you enjoyed, and I can almost guarantee you that Joel represented him. So whether it was rock and roll, country, blues, rhythm and blues, even to the degree of producing and getting involved in negotiating some of the awards programs that we enjoy on television today in the music and entertainment field. Well, think about this now. He's in Atlanta. He has something like 1,000 attorneys across the entire world that represent people that you wouldn't believe, and yet he's a part of the industry that's been here for literally 50 years, maybe longer in the case of his impact and career. So in that tradition, and certainly a case where it isn't one that we look to say 1, 2, or 3, and now because of the third most effective contribution made in the history of entertainment for the state of Georgia. No, but rather the fact that in the continuum of recognizing our lineage, our heritage, and our history, and the people who brought us to where we are today, I have, and the Technology Association of Georgia, the TAG, Digital Media Entertainment Society, its members of the board of directors have the incredible, and I myself, incredible personal and professional opportunity. There's times when awards should be given. Sometimes they're tokens, sometimes they're kind of what is inevitable, it's the next thing. And then there's times when it's just right. It's absolutely the right thing to do. And ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the 2014 Technology Association of Georgia Icon of the Entertainment Industry Award to none other than Shay. Now, as it is the tradition of the summit, what we're going to do is we're going to invite Shay to sit with us for a few minutes, and instead of, say, a formal response at the podium, we're just going to chat. We're going to have a fireside chat and talk a little bit about her career and some of the memories and some of the successes and also some of the challenges that she's overcome over the last several years. So why don't you join me? Okay, so it's an informal discussion. The whole format of a fireside chat is really not to make it a pure Q&A, but rather to have it be, as I mentioned to Shay once in a conversation a couple of weeks ago, just a couple of guys having my case of bourbon, but a beer, and just talking about the good old days. And oh, by the way, you're part of this dialogue, so if there's a question that I don't bring up or something that you'd like to learn more about, just raise your hand and hopefully we'll have enough time to capture some of your questions as well. You know, something impressed me once when you said local hires. And at first I thought, well, you know, we're all local hires. I mean, you know, if you're looking for a job here, you look. But as I began to hear your explanation, I began to realize the difference of what it meant when you first started out in this industry to advocate the concept of a local hire. So let's start there. What does that mean to you when I say local hire?
To me, you know, I think my meaning is probably one that's a little different than everybody else's, but when we first began to work on a lot of the episodics that were first coming to Georgia, we were having such a, you know, it was beginning to be a struggle about whether or not we'd have enough talent. So we created more of an attitude about what would be local hire and what would not. Now, that was in the days of In the Heat of the Night, and that was a different day. At this point in time, to me, local hire has a different meaning. Local hire now means that it's about the people who live in Georgia. It's about the people who help support this bill. It's about the people who deserve the opportunity to work. And so for that reason, I guess I've become very dedicated to what local hire means. The last few films that I cast, we were able to put just about 80% of the talent on the screen by staying true to the fact that we wanted to do it local. And we get calls all the time of people all over, I mean, last week even from London, England, telling me they were local hire to Atlanta, Georgia. And I was so trying to figure out how that was going to work out. And I tried to get them to explain to me how they thought that would work out. And obviously it became real clear to me that they had no real concept about working on a production site, because they would obviously know that if we change our schedule within, you know, 6 o'clock at night, they just probably will not make it in here as a local hire from London, England the next day. So
and the likelihood is
you know,
the accent would give them away too, right?
Well, it would even be, I mean, to me, my biggest concern was, how would you get here? How would you really get here? So my dedication is to the fact that, you know, we worked really hard for this bill. It was not something that came easy. No one really thought in the beginning we could even do it. We were challenged to do something, do anything besides a tax incentive. I mean, that was our first charge by Governor Perdue. Don't bring me a tax incentive. Think outside the box. And one of my colleagues that was really involved in helping to put this bill together, a gentleman many of you know by the name of Rick Wright, he and I looked at each other and said, well, wouldn't we need to be in that box in order to think outside of it? We're not even in the game anymore. So after a lot of research and a lot of work, I mean, you know, obviously what we did bring to the governor was the tax incentive. But because of that and because of all the work that went into it, you know, local hire is important to me. I want to see Georgians work.
Well, I was sitting here and I'm thinking, you know, if maybe there might be, if someone else kind of thinks as weird as I do, but I'm thinking, you can calm down now, Shay, we passed it. You know, the passion that you got and the belief that you had for that tax incentive is working and it's producing results. Today, let's go back to what brought you to the tax incentive.
You know, I do want to make a comment about when Richard was up and I was watching all the wonderful things that he was showing us there and the history of the industry from a point that many of us don't even know about. All I could think of was, look how far we've come. Yep. I mean, it was just so exciting to look at where we were and who we are now. And you were saying a while ago where we place. oh my, we don't place among. We are truly one of the top 3 industries in the nation right now. I mean, Georgia is right up there. I don't like to say we're number 3. My colleagues and friends know I always say we're among the top 3 because I refuse to be positioned in this situation. No one knows where we're going, so.
Let's talk a little bit about when I think of local hires, when you were first beginning, first that as you're pointing out, the camaraderie, the smallness of the community. I think a lot of cases, so many times we forget that how quickly Atlanta grew, how quick Buckhead grew, how quick Midtown and Downtown. Those were small towns, small communities. People knew each other and went to high school together and that kind of thing. And to know that you were charged, here's an agent who was in Atlanta, in Georgia, to even have anyone recognize your existence would be one thing, but to actually have them come to you and ask for your assistance. And you heard earlier the kind of programs, the shows, the movies, the television soaps. I mean, the list goes on and on. Consider the fact that they could have gone anywhere. Certainly they could have gone to California, they could have gone to Hollywood, but they came to Atlanta to talk to Shay because they knew that she was going to take care of business. So when we talk about local hires, at that point, describe to me the challenge that you had to, because this is one of the fascinations I've always admired with you, is that you bloomed where you were planted. Yeah. That you could have, and most of us probably would have, gone and followed the money over to the West Coast. But no, you stood your ground. Talk a little bit about standing your ground.
I think that those who know me well know that I have a great love of the land that's over in West Georgia. And so I think that also what most people never know is that I was actually not born in Georgia. I was born in California, and have a tremendous amount of family still living in California, and consider myself still native Californian. But I chose to be a Georgian. And so when all of this began for me in my career, I got into this business as an agent, and it was at the time when the industry was just the first time there was really some film. That was under Ed Spivey, who I consider one of my mentors, as well as I do Joel Katz. These were 2 people who were great mentors in my career, so I'm so honored to be following them. But when that all was beginning, the one thing I began to realize was that, and Mr. Spivey and I did not start out on such a good note, because I said to him that all he did was sell real estate. And as long as he sold real estate, my people weren't working. So we need to do something about that. And that is when I started making the trips out to Los Angeles. And I learned very quickly that aside from the fact that the first reception I would receive is, who was this crazy lady who had come from Atlanta, Georgia to talk to them about talent? What on earth would make me think that was something logical? But the second thing that I realized is I'd have to know a lot more about Georgia than just to talk about talent. And that made me become very interested in everything we had to offer, from our locations and all of our many wonderful people that were working in crew. And as you say, we grew to be a pretty strong family in those years. And so for me, it was a great opportunity to go out and talk about what we could do here and why you would come here. Some have heard me tell the story that it was a pretty brutal journey for me in the beginning, because like I said, people looked at me like, who is this woman from Georgia talking to us about filming in Georgia? And that's not to take away from what Mr. Spivey was doing, because heaven knows he was out there all the time. But this was my part of the journey.
Before you start the story, though, I got to interject that Ed will be the first to tell you that the cultural conflict of bringing, say, for example, Jimmy Carter to LA or to Hollywood to negotiate or try to talk to the Hollywood film community, they were already so stereotypically judgmental that I can only guess, following up with, and I apologize for what is today politically incorrect, but a female from Georgia coming and talking to them, that had to be an amazing challenge. So.
Well, it wasn't always easy. That's for sure. As I said, I got in some doors, I think, just simply because they were curious as to why in the world I would think I had something to tell them. However, what I did learn was, finally, after pushing that for a while and realizing that something had to make this happen, I sat down one day with a producer and suddenly said to them, well, what if I could save you money? And in that day, my world changed. They understood that when they didn't understand anything else. When I said, well, I could save you money if you came to Georgia. And they looked at me rather curiously, like, how would you do that exactly? And we didn't have tax incentives, so I had to think very quickly, what was that going to be? And as I said, as far as what I knew best, I knew the acting talent pool. I know how much that impacts a cast or a film. And many of the films would have as many as 25 and 30 actors in those films. And so I said to them, well, okay, so how many people do you bring to Georgia? How many people do you bring on location? If you have 30 people in your film, and if you come to Georgia, and I can give you 15 or 20 of them, tell me that will not save you money. And then there'll be other great things that you'll find in Georgia that will save you money. So it worked. First time I said that to a producer, he waited a month or two and finally called me and sent me a script and said, all right, show me. And we've been showing them ever since.
So would you guys agree with me that now we know the line, show me the money, where it really came from? Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the whole idea that in my wildest dreams. Because I think there's a lot of people here today that are working hard to not only, to make a career and to make a living now, but aren't necessarily realizing the sense of perspective of the role they're playing in not only what they do today, but the evolution of this industry, what's going to be like in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. Do you ever stop and think about that, or no? Most of us are just too busy to take care of the day. Here we can go time travel a little bit in time. Let's talk a little bit about, did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams? And don't repeat the joke that I told you about the football coach that said his wife told him, you never are in my wildest dreams. So,
I can't tell you that I think there was, as many of you know, there was a 5-member committee that actually worked on the bill in the beginning. Signed Governor Perdue, put Ed Spivey and myself on there, and I kind of bridged and one other gentleman, Dana Braun from down in Savannah, Georgia, representing that area of the state. And we ended up asking them to have GPP, which had been so instrumental in everything that was going on in building the industry back. GPP was really the heart of what began that journey back. And so it seemed obvious that they should be represented on this. And so 2 other people joined us, Rick Wrights and Wilbur Fitzgerald, joined us in that journey that we began of what did the bill look like, what would it be, what would the governor accept, what could we get through the session that next year. And as we began to put the bill together, we felt we had something really special. We had something no one else had quite like it, and we felt that we might be able to in fact sell it to Governor Perdue, which was going to be one of the biggest of the jobs we had to do. And that Georgia Peach was the answer. When we connected the Peach and were able to say to the governor, there is no industry, bar none, that can create the kind of publicity and PR and exposure that this film industry can do. And if we can put that Peach there, imagine if it had been, and we used, of course, the example of Gone with the Wind. What if it was on there and was still showing somewhere in the world every day? So imagine that if we put this on our films made in Georgia, that we will promote Georgia from now on forever in television and music and now in the digital world. I mean, it worked for everything. And it was the thing that got Governor Perdue to say, well, if you all can get it through the session this year, I'll sign it, and send us off on a really amazing journey. That was one I'm always grateful to Ed Spivey for, because as film commissioner some years before that, he knew that network down at the big house, as I always called it. Let's go down to the big house today. He knew the people, and we went down and we talked to people and we talked to people and we talked to people. First of all, they were just like, okay. But it was, again, that same sort of thing. What if we can make money for the state of Georgia? What if we can make this a type of thing that there will be such a great income coming into the state? And not many people believed that we had a real clue about that, but we believed we did. But to answer your question, what did we think? We all I can tell you this, that we were all at the opening last year for Pinewood. And I can remember looking around at my colleagues that were standing there, and I walked over and stood between the 2 of them and looked around that room, and I said, could we have ever imagined what was going to happen? So I think that it just got so much bigger than was imaginable. I don't know that anyone could have dreamed that once we put that tax incentive in place, and you put the power that we had in this industry behind it, you know, that's not about the governor. That's about us. That's about the industry here in Georgia. Always has been. We are that industry. And I think once all the industry people were behind it and were supportive, and we began to work so hard for it to make that bill successful. Yet still, I mean, it's been amazing. When you look at the studios we have now in this state, I mean, my goodness, we are the envy of most everybody else. They're still trying to figure out how we did it. So when you see all the wonderful work that's coming in and all the opportunities that it's creating, one of the first things I had the opportunity to say to Governor Deal when I first had a chance to speak to him is I said, you know, when the Georgia film industry is healthy, we'll put Georgians to work. When I heard the figure not long ago of how many Georgians are now actively working in the film industry, I think it's something like 77,000. I mean, it's an extraordinary number of people who have now gone to work in some aspect of this business. Not just, my passion, of course, has always been the actors, but it's also, you can't put, you know, actors don't get to work unless a lot of other things happen first. And so when you see all the crew that now is working, and the fact that we are really now getting all kinds of things put in place to try to train in all of the different areas now of the industry. When you look at this incredible music industry that exists in this state, and you put that along with the film industry, and then you start putting the gaming and everything, we are an incredible state. And that was always my belief, and it's what I got to share with Governor Deal, is that, you know, we're not an ordinary state when it comes to entertainment. We are really a truly special state, and we can do things that not everybody can do. So, no, I don't think any of us on that committee thought it would turn into what it has actually become, but I think we were very hopeful.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the table now and see if there's anybody that wants to lay in. You got an opportunity to ask Shay a question, to actually go back in time or challenge a position or an issue that you feel as far as something that's happening in your professional career. But before I do that, I want to pose a question to you. How many of you have seen what Shay is talking about as far as the peach at the end of the production?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, in your honest opinion, when you see that, does that not make you feel good? I mean, there's something, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm from Italy, man, so it's like, you know, if I'm usually get excited over lasagna, I get excited over a peach all of a sudden when it pops up at the end of a television program, and even if it is Family Feud that I'm watching.
That's
But
right.
Is there any question that you'd like to pose to Shay? Yes, ma'am, please stand up and...
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you see where the trend is going forward in some other areas that we could bring to the state of Georgia and take advantage of that tax incentive in the entertainment industry other than music, film?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, what else do I think is going to be the next trend and what can happen? Independent production. We must now move to a position of creating content. We'll never really truly be the industry in Georgia that we want to be as long as we forever depend upon Los Angeles or anywhere else to bring the work to us. That's wonderful. We hope they always will. However, my belief, and it's one of those, it's a belief I share with others, and it's one I'm very involved in and intend to be real involved in the next couple of years, because you didn't think you were giving me this because you thought I was quitting. So, just to be clear on that.
You're taking my closing question. I was going to tell you bought the company.
Oh no. No, we're just halfway through the journey.
Okay.
And to me, the biggest thing we have now to do, and I have some wonderful colleagues that I'm working with in this endeavor right now, and we're going to make the product. We're going to create the shows. We're going to create the movies. We're going to put the music that our great industry will furnish with us to it, to anything else the digital world or the gaming world can add to that concept. We need to become, when I say independent, independent means we should be an independent marketplace creating product for the world to see.
Well, with that, tell us about what you're working on, the project you're actually working on. Not just that the state is involved in content, but you've become slowly a producer.
Well, I've been involved in producing before, and I've helped do, a few independent projects along the way, because I always believed that we had to have that freedom to create it ourselves. I got tired of always doing somebody else's material. It was a job, and you do it as well as you possibly can. Doesn't mean you always love it. I recently got nominated for a CSA award over a project that I actually didn't even put on my resume until I got nominated, because I didn't think it was all that great. However, that was Hollywood's thoughts. So my attitude is that there are a lot of great people in this marketplace who can write and who can help to create, and I'd like to hope I'm going to be one of them. I do have a project that I'm truly passionate about, and for me it actually combines two of the greatest loves of my life, and that's two of the biggest industries in the state of Georgia, and that's the agriculture industry and the film industry. So I have a project that I'm working on, and we're moving right along, and we have a lot of hope that we're going to see this project go on the air, and we're going to put Georgians in front of the screen in roles that we have so long waited for, as well as hopefully then, everything about our show will be about Georgia, from the music to the cruise to everything that we do. So that's sort of my next great ambition and venture, along with several of my friends. I am involved in other projects that we are trying to get off the ground together. So I think that is where the future is going to be in this state. I mean, we can all be work for hire forever, or we can either create a way to do it ourselves.
Clearly, one of the when you think about a common thread, when you've had a chance to talk to people like Ed Spivey or Joel Katz and others that have been involved in the industry, and you learned today from Shay that there's something special. I mean, Richard is the same kind of character, and that is they're not about themselves, they're about helping other people as well. And the concept, again, of this passing it forward, the idea that you're not just in it for the money, in it for the moment, that you're part of something bigger, something more important than that. And I challenge you to think in terms of how many of you in this room today potentially are going to be icons in another 10 or 20 or 30 years. Will you be recognized for the moment in 2014, or will you be recognized for a whole career of creativity as well as philanthropic attitude towards your fellow professionals and to your fellow Jordans? With that, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to give a standing ovation to the 2014 winner of the Icon Award for Entertainment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very special, and I appreciate it very much.